empire is over. We're done. We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. So the problem with the trickle down is, yeah, there might be more jobs, but they're going to be created in China. They're going to be created in Brazil. They're going to be created in India. They're not created here. We have the greatest level of corporate debt this country has ever seen, off the chart. The greatest level of personal debt, and we have the greatest level of government debt. Our government debt is now trillions of dollars greater than our annual output. That was not the case in the 20th century. It is the case now. What you're seeing is desperation politics. The whole Trump phenomena ought to say to you, wait a minute, these jerky moves that are out of whack, right? In recent days, we have seen the decision of the Trump administration to kiss the war in Ukraine goodbye. We're not doing that no more because we can't afford it. We can't keep funding a war, which, by the way, the West is losing, as anybody who pays attention knows. All of these things are signs of what? Of a country that is in trouble, and is it turning on its friends because it can to save itself. We're going to take over, we're going to get your energy for nothing. We're going to, make you build the wall, you in Mexico. Look what the genius in a way of Mr. Trump is that without understanding it, because clearly he doesn't, he feels in his own way, the way lots of people do, that there's something that necessitates going way beyond what has been done because our need as a society is beginning to show up. Look, let me give you a simple example. The best electric vehicles in the world right now, but by uniform global agreement, are produced by something called the BYD Corporation, which probably most folks have never heard of, which is Chinese. BYD, the initials, BYD. They make the best quality, cheapest electric car and truck. All right, you don't see them anywhere in the United States. Why not? Because Mr. Trump put a 27% tariff on them, and Mr. Biden raised it to 100%. So let me give you an example. If you wanted to buy a $30,000 BYD electric vehicle, which you could do, that's what they charge. That's why it's so good. You would have to pay $30,000 to get the Chinese to ship it here. Then you'd have to give another $30,000, 100%, tariff to Uncle Sam, or in this case, Uncle Don, in the way of a tariff. So it would cost you $60,000, which you're not going to do because you can get a less good Tesla or GM or Ford or anybody else at $40,000 to $50,000, which is less than you'd have to pay. But here's the problem.
I was going to say, because right now this sounds like a good plan to a lot of people. Trump has said, I'm going to do this not just to China. Although he's going to double existing tariffs to China, obviously, right. But Mexico, Canada, everybody. If we intensify the tariffs, the scenario you just painted will happen, and people will be forced to buy U.S. stuff,
right?
Which then creates U.S. jobs, which again stimulates the economy.
All right, let me be the economist. Okay, that's good for the Tesla company, which I'm sure is purely coincidental, and GM and Ford and the others. Good. And they'll maybe be able to hold on to some jobs. Good. But now let's follow the bouncing ball. That's my job as an economist.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in the world, every company in Asia, Africa, Latin America that competes with an American company that has to buy a truck as part of its business will go to China and buy the best truck at the lowest price, $30,000, the best truck. No American company that competes with them will do that. And you know what that means? Those companies will be able to charge a lower price because they have better inputs than the American company, which doesn't.
Alliances in the world.
Picture this. China, Japan, and South Korea, the top 3 countries in the world that have never before gotten along, have now formed an allegiance to fight a war against Donald Trump and his global tariffs. Now, Asia's three biggest powerhouses finally putting aside centuries of rivalry, war wounds, and political friction to form a historic alliance against the United States of America. Sound impossible? It's already happening, and the world will never be the same. Why does it matter? Well, together, these three nations represent over 1.5 billion people, 20 trillion in combined GDP, and dominate everything from technology and manufacturing to AI and semiconductors. If they unite, even just economically, they would rival and surpass the power of the US and EU combined, given that most everything shipped into the United States is from China. This alliance could create the largest supply chain network in human history, streamlining tech, cars, robotics, and energy like never before. Culturally, it would be an unstoppable soft power force. Think K-pop, anime, and Chinese cinema merging into an entertainment empire. Militarily, together, they'd field the largest and most advanced military force in the East. If they set a single digital currency or tech standard, global companies will have to follow their rules and drop the American dollar. Bottom line, a Japan-China-Korea union wouldn't just shift power east. It could redefine globalization, end the Western monopoly on innovation, and reset the world over. This is where Donald Trump has taken America in less than 90 days. Picture this. No!
I don't.
Just so that we're all on the same page here, if Donald Trump brings the United States into a war, we're going to lose. And this possibility is looking realer than ever with his threats to use our military to annex Greenland. And I'm telling you right now, if we go into a war, it will be a world war. It will be World War III. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't a metaphor. And you may be thinking to yourself, but we have the largest military in the world. That's not possible. Okay, but here's what you don't understand. We are fifth in the number of enlisted in the world, the number of military enlisted. And second of all, it is very difficult to convince soldiers and people in the military to die for a cause that they don't believe in. If you just arbitrarily start a war, you are going to face a lot of power struggles and internal issues within the military. People will be fleeing the United States. People will be deserting the military. This is not something that the United States has a real chance of winning. And furthermore, we have no allies. We've turned our backs on every single ally. And even right now as we speak, other countries are forming alliances without the United States in preparation for war against us. And really, who's going to come to our aid? Not Canada. Not Mexico. El Salvador is going to come save the day? I think not. Guess we should start getting our cans together, or it's time to get out. Just so that we're all on the same page here, if Donald Trump brings...
Heard from one woman who even said that the same basket of groceries that she regularly buys has now effectively doubled. Take a listen.
I feel like the prices are ridiculous now. It's to the point where it's going to be harder for people to shop because the prices are just insane. Literally, yes, because last week I literally for the same amount of stuff that I bought, I literally paid like maybe $30-40, and now it's like $75 for like 3 bags of groceries. It's like completely insane.
Heard from one woman who even said that the same...
U.S. officials have now objected to Europe's push to rearm themselves, with Rubio telling European allies that they want them to keep buying American weapons. They also complain that the EU's military spending project doesn't include American defense companies. And it appears this is entirely a problem of America's own creation. Or with experts saying, they turned off aid to Ukraine, they eased pressure on Moscow, they insulted Europe multiple times and told them that we don't share the same values anymore. They also threatened to turn off the UK's weapons, threatened to withdraw troops, threatened to invade Canada and Greenland. They weakened NATO's Article 5. They spread a rumor about a kill switch inside of the F-35. And for Trump's entire political career, he complained about Europe buying too many American weapons and not having any defense industry of its own. And so now that they've gotten what they supposedly wanted, they're upset that Europe is making its own defense industry and not buying American weapons. With Rubio telling the Baltic nations that not buying American weapons would be seen as inappropriate, and the State Department saying that transatlantic defense industrial cooperation makes the alliance stronger. But with that, you had one official saying, what exactly is the foreign foreign policy of Washington. And to give you kind of an idea of what's been called kind of the chaos, incompetence, and overall shit show that is happening with America abroad. Reportedly, China has 5 different back channels with the Trump administration, and they say that all of them are carrying different messages. Another example is that in December, Trump told Europe, if you buy more American gas, I won't hit you with tariffs. So then it appears Europe bought more gas, and then Trump imposed tariffs anyway. But for now, follow to stay in the loop. U.S. officials have now
America.
Instead of
Okay, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Donald Trump, not out of praise, but out of truth. Because while you rip through every part of this government, tearing down justice, equality, and fairness under the fake excuse of fighting DEI fraud, what you're really doing is confirming what black folks have been saying for generations. America was built on racism, fueled by fear and sustained by white supremacy. You've exposed it all. The masks are off. The polite racism, the fake allyship, the colorblind lies, it's all gone. Now we see it raw and unfiltered. You're not just targeting policy, you're targeting people. Black people, brown people, marginalized communities, and the wild part. We make up the smallest portion of this country, yet somehow we are the biggest threat to the lie that white supremacy built. That should tell you everything. You're afraid not of violence, not of replacement, but of the power we hold even when we have nothing.
Pre-K or... We're Americans. We can't afford universal pre-K or to feed our children, but, we always have a few $1 billion lying around for another war.
We're Americans. We don't want our money going overseas, unless it's to buy Greenland or to build beachfront condos in Gaza.
We're Americans. We fought Nazis so we could let an unelected one run our federal government less than 100 years later.
We're Americans. We think America is the greatest country in the world, even though we're the only developed nation that doesn't have universal health care.
We're Americans. We love our vets, which is why we're firing 80,000 VA workers and defunding their health care.
Make that make sense. And make the sense make that. Because it don't make none. You get what I'm saying? I'm just like, make that make sense. And make the sense make that. Because it don't make none. You get what I'm saying? I'm just